Have you ever felt that there is a voice inside you that speaks with intensity, but another presence, silent and eternal, that seems to guide you from the shadows? Most people confuse these two forces, and in that confusion, they lose the key to understanding who they really are. The truth is both unsettling and liberating. Your soul and your spirit are not the same. One is a restless traveler, filled with memories, emotions, and desires. The other is the timeless spark, the unshakable essence that has no beginning and no end. To confuse them is to mistake the echo for the source, the storm for the sky, the wave for the ocean, and yet almost everyone does. This is not a matter of philosophy for scholars or mystics alone. This is the hidden root of why you suffer, why you feel lost, why your victories sometimes taste empty, and why your search for meaning never ends. Imagine for a moment that every decision you make, every fear you feel, every passion that drives you, is colored by the voice of your soul. But behind it, quietly waiting, is the voice of your spirit, untouched by chaos, offering clarity, strength, and direction. The tragedy of human life is that most never learn to hear it. The miracle is that you can. Helena Blavatsky, one of the boldest seekers of hidden truth, spoke of this mystery not as an abstract idea, but as a living key. She reminded us that within you burns a double fire, the soul, which learns and suffers, and the spirit, which simply knows and remains. To understand this difference is to step onto the path that can change not just your thoughts, but the very vibration of your existence. When you truly see the distinction, everything shifts. The conflicts that once ruled you lose their power, and a higher clarity takes their place. The question is not whether the soul and spirit exist within you. They do. The real question is, will you continue living caught in the restless tides of the soul, or will you awaken to the silent brilliance of the spirit? The answer could redefine your life. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is not just knowledge. It is a revelation that can alter the way you see yourself, your struggles, and your purpose forever. Have you ever wondered if the voice that guides your choices, that makes you hesitate or pushes you forward, is really the deepest truth of who you are? Or could it be that another force, silent and often ignored, is waiting to reveal itself? Most people spend their entire lives mistaking the echo for the source, chasing after shadows, while the real light is hidden within. The unsettling truth is that the soul and the spirit are not the same, and to live without knowing the difference is like walking through a vast temple blindfolded, touching the walls but never seeing the altar at its heart. Imagine for a moment that your entire life, every memory, every fear, every joy, is written in a great book. That book is your soul. Its pages are filled with laughter, pain, broken promises, victories, and regrets. You carry it everywhere, even in dreams. But what if I told you that the book itself is not the final truth, that behind it, unseen, there is the silent author who gives it meaning, the eternal essence that has been with you before the first page was written and will remain long after the last? That is your spirit. Most people never meet this author. They spend their days lost in the stories, forgetting that a deeper intelligence sustains them. Helena Blavatsky once said that mankind is trapped not by ignorance of the world outside, but by ignorance of the world within. And this ignorance has a cost. When you confuse the soul for the spirit, you believe that your emotions are the highest truth. You believe that fear defines your limits, that desire defines your needs, and that sorrow defines your destiny. But what if every one of these emotions was only a mask, hiding the silent and eternal reality of the spirit? What if the pain you feel was not punishment, but a reminder that you are looking in the wrong direction? Think of the moments when you felt completely torn, when your heart wanted one thing but your inner voice whispered another. Which did you follow? Most of us obey the loudest voice, the emotional pull of the soul. And yet later, a small regret often creeps in, as if something purer, calmer, tried to guide us and we ignored it. Could it be that these quiet signals are the spirit calling us home? If so, why do we silence it? Why are we afraid of listening to the part of us that cannot be broken, cannot be corrupted, cannot be erased? Science speaks of memory, psychology of the subconscious, religion of the divine. But what if all of them are only touching the edges of this greater truth? Across the centuries, people have reported experiences they could not explain. A sudden sense of knowing, a dream that reveals a future event, a voice that speaks in moments of danger, an intuition that saves a life. Are these accidents of the mind, or glimpses of the spirit shining through the cracks of the soul? If even one of these stories is true, then everything we believe about who we are must be questioned. Picture yourself as a traveler entering a vast cathedral. The outer halls are filled with paintings, statues, and echoes of footsteps. This is the realm of the soul, alive, emotional, filled with symbols and stories. But beyond those halls, behind a hidden door, lies the inner sanctuary, silent, luminous, without ornament, pure. That is the realm of the spirit. Few ever step inside. Why? Because they confuse the noise of the outer halls with the silence of the sacred chamber. They think the temple is only decoration, and so they leave before reaching its heart. And here is the greatest conflict. The soul and the spirit live within you at the same time, like two currents flowing together. One pulls you toward identity, memory, and attachment. The other lifts you toward transcendence, eternity, and freedom. The soul trembles with every storm. The spirit stands unshaken, like a lighthouse in the darkness. To recognize which is not just philosophy, it is survival. How many mistakes have been made by following the fever of the soul while ignoring the stillness of the spirit? Blavatsky believed that this confusion is the root of human suffering. We think we are free, but we are prisoners of the restless soul, chained to our passions, fears, and desires. Meanwhile, the spirit waits, patient and eternal, like a sun hidden behind clouds. The tragedy is not that the sun is absent, but that we refuse to look up. The miracle is that the clouds can clear in an instant, if we learn to see with the inner eye. Ask yourself now, which part of you is speaking at this very moment? The soul that fears being forgotten, or the spirit that knows it can never die? The soul that seeks applause, or the spirit that needs nothing but truth? The soul that doubts, or the spirit that simply is? Every decision you make is shaped by which of these voices you allow to lead. The question is not abstract, it is immediate. Which voice are you living by now? History is filled with individuals who glimpse this truth. They spoke of awakening, enlightenment, liberation, but perhaps they were only describing in different words the same realization, that the soul is the traveler, but the spirit is both origin and destination. To see this is to live differently. To ignore it is to remain in chains. Which path will you choose? The deeper you go into this mystery, the more unsettling questions arise. If your emotions are not the highest truth, then what is? If your memories are not your true identity, then who are you? If your soul can be broken, can suffer, can despair, but your spirit remains untouched, then why do you continue to live as if only the soul is real? The answers will not come easily, but once they appear, they will change everything. So we begin this journey into the difference between the soul and the spirit. Not to entertain, not to speculate, but to awaken. Because hidden within this mystery lies the key to a life not of confusion, but of clarity. A life where you no longer mistake the storm for the sky. A life where the eternal spark finally takes its rightful place at the center of your being. And once you glimpse it, you will never see yourself the same way again. But the question remains, will you dare to see what has always been there, waiting in silence, or will you continue living in the restless shadows of the soul? The answer to that question awaits in what comes next. From the beginning of time, human beings have searched for answers to the same questions. Who am I? What is eternal in me? What is only temporary? Ancient civilizations tried to give form to this mystery, and although their languages, symbols, and rituals were different, they all pointed to the same truth. Inside us live two forces, the soul and the spirit, and our greatest mistake has always been to confuse them. The cost of this confusion is not abstract. It is felt in our everyday struggles, in the silent battles we fight within ourselves. Think about the moments when you acted on impulse, guided by strong emotions, and later asked yourself, why did I do that? This is the soul in motion. It holds your desires, your passions, your memories, and it reacts like fire to every spark. But there is something deeper. Have you ever had a quiet certainty, an unexplainable clarity that guided you even when logic or fear told you otherwise? That was the spirit. Most of the time, we ignore it because its voice is not loud. It whispers. Yet that whisper has saved lives, healed wounds, and opened doors to transformation. Ancient Greece imagined the soul as a chariot pulled by different horses, each one representing conflicting forces. The Hindus spoke of Jiva, the soul full of karmas. and Atman, the eternal spark identical to the divine. The Egyptians distinguished between Ba, the emotional self, and Ka, the life force that lives on after death. Even the Taoists spoke of Hun and Po, one returning to the heavens and the other tied to the earth. Why would such different cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, arrive at the same understanding? Because they touched the same reality hidden in every human being. But what does this mean for you today? Imagine waking up in the morning, already feeling anxious about the day. That anxiety belongs to the soul. It remembers yesterday's failures. It fears tomorrow's challenges. It doubts your strength. And yet, sometimes, when you stop for a moment, maybe while drinking your coffee, maybe while looking at the sky, you feel a strange calm, as if something inside you knows that everything will be fine. That is the spirit, silent but present, trying to remind you of a truth that the soul always forgets. We live as if the soul is everything, but the soul is fragile. It can be broken by betrayal, it can be shaken by loss, it can be consumed by fear. The spirit, however, cannot be broken. It is like the ocean beneath the waves. No matter how violent the storm, the deep waters remain calm. To mistake the waves for the ocean is to live trapped in fear. To recognize the ocean beneath is to awaken to your real strength. Helena Blavatsky insisted that this distinction is not philosophy alone. It is the secret to a higher life. She saw that the soul, full of shadows and desires, is a traveler, but the spirit is the horizon that never disappears. Every day you are given the choice to walk guided by the restlessness of the soul or by the calm fire of the spirit. Which one are you listening to right now? Consider a simple story. A man loses his job and feels his world collapse. His soul tells him, "You are a failure, you have no worth, you will not recover." But in the quiet of the night, something inside him whispers, "This is not the end. This is a chance to rebuild, to discover your true path." That whisper is the spirit. If he listens, his life changes. If he ignores it, he remains in despair. How many times have you lived this same story in your own way? Or imagine a woman betrayed by someone she trusted. Her soul is in flames, full of pain and anger. But the spirit within her says, "You are greater than this wound. You cannot be reduced to this moment." She has a choice: to remain prisoner of her soul's emotions or to rise with the strength of her spirit. Which would you choose? This conflict between the soul and the spirit is not a theory. It happens every day, in every decision, in every silence, in every heartbeat. And here lies the secret. When you begin to recognize the difference, life itself begins to change. You stop fighting against yourself. You start to walk with clarity because you finally know which voice is guiding you. This is the wisdom the ancients tried to pass on, and this is the wisdom Blavatsky defended, that to confuse the two is to remain blind, but to distinguish them is to awaken. Now I want you to do something powerful. If you understand this truth, even if just a spark of it, write in the comments right now these exact words: "I understand." Why? Because declaring it makes the knowledge real. Writing it seals it into your consciousness. It is like planting a seed that will grow with time. Do not let this moment pass. Type, "I understand." Let it be your first step toward awakening. And if you feel chosen to continue this journey, if you feel the call of the spirit within you, then prove it. Somewhere on this screen there is a red button. Only the chosen will click it. Only those who want to rise above the restless tides of the soul will press it. And those who do will not simply subscribe to a channel, they will open themselves to light, to clarity, to blessing. Click the red button now and let the spirit guide you further. The soul is like a restless garden. It is filled with memories, emotions, fears, and hopes. Some flowers bloom brightly with joy, others are poisoned by pain, and still others are seeds buried deep, waiting for the right season to appear. Every day you walk through this inner garden, and what you see there shapes how you feel, how you act, and even how you define who you are. But have you noticed that the garden is never the same? It changes with every storm, with every ray of light, with every passing day. And yet something beyond the garden remains constant. That constant presence is the spirit, the eternal sun that shines above it all. The spirit is not touched by the storms of the soul. It does not wither when the flowers fall. It does not tremble when the winds roar. While the soul is in constant movement, the spirit is unchanging. It is like the deep ocean beneath the restless surface waves. You may feel the waves crashing, but the ocean remains vast and calm beneath. When you identify only with the waves, you live in fear. But when you realize that you are the ocean itself, you awaken to your real power. How many times in your life have you mistaken the storm for the sky? How often have you believed that the temporary chaos was the whole truth? There is something important to understand. The soul and the spirit are not enemies. They are partners, but their roles are different. The soul is the traveler, the storyteller, the one that gathers experiences, both sweet and bitter. The spirit is the destination, the lighthouse, the one that gives meaning to the journey. Without the soul, there would be no story to live. Without the spirit, the story would have no purpose. They are like two flames burning inside you. One flickers with the winds of life, while the other burns steady, unshaken, eternal. The challenge is not to silence one or worship the other, but to recognize them both for what they are. But here is the conflict. Most people mistake the flickering flame for the eternal one. They give all their attention to the soul's restlessness, its fears, its passions. They allow the storms to define them, forgetting that behind it all there is a flame that never changes. This is why so many feel lost, even when they seem to have everything. This is why success often feels empty, why relationships collapse, why victories turn to ashes. Could it be that we are listening to the wrong fire? Pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you felt peace that no external event could break? A peace that was not connected to success or approval or the absence of problems, but something deeper, like a quiet knowing that all is well. That was your spirit. You may think it was just a rare moment, but what if it was not rare at all? What if it is always present, waiting behind the noise of the soul, ready to guide you, if only you would listen? Consider the metaphor of the wave and the ocean. Each wave is different. Some are tall, some small, some violent, some gentle. They rise, they crash, they disappear, but all of them are the ocean expressing itself. The soul is the wave, always in motion, always changing. The spirit is the ocean, vast, unending, eternal. When the wave forgets it belongs to the ocean, it feels small, fragile, at the mercy of every storm. But when the wave remembers, it is the ocean itself. It loses all fear. What would your life look like if you lived every day remembering that you are not just the wave, you are also the ocean? The power of this realization is immense. It changes the way you see yourself, the way you see others, the way you see life itself. Suddenly, the mistakes of the past no longer define you. The fears of the future no longer control you. You begin to live from a place of strength instead of weakness, clarity instead of confusion, peace instead of chaos. But why is this truth so hard to accept? Why do we cling so tightly to the storms of the soul? Perhaps it is because the soul is loud. It shouts through emotions, through desires, through fears. The spirit whispers. It speaks in silence, in stillness, in calm. Most people only hear the loudest voice, and so they are carried away by it. But what if the real wisdom is hidden in the quiet? What if the truth is not in the noise, but in the silence behind it? Have you ever noticed that your most powerful insights often come in moments of stillness, not in the rush of chaos? Helena Blavatsky spoke of this as the double fire within every human being. The fire of the soul, restless and ever-changing, and the fire of the spirit, eternal and unshaken. She believed that the purpose of life is not to destroy one or the other, but to unite them into a single flame. When the soul aligns with the spirit, it no longer wanders blindly. It becomes an instrument of something greater. It vibrates with higher frequencies, resonating with love, compassion, and clarity. But when it disconnects, it becomes lost, drowning in fear, envy, or despair. Which fire are you feeding right now? Imagine someone living entirely from the soul. They are always chasing emotions, always needing validation, always fearing loss. Their life becomes a constant roller coaster of highs and lows. Now imagine someone living from the spirit. They move through the same world, facing the same storms, but something in them remains steady. They may feel pain, but they are not broken. They may feel fear, but they are not controlled by it. They may face loss, but they do not lose themselves. Which life would you rather live? Here is a surprising truth. The spirit cannot be damaged. No matter what happens, it remains whole. The soul can suffer trauma, heartbreak, disappointment, but the spirit remains untouched, like the sky behind the clouds. Even in your darkest moments, the spirit within you is still shining. The question is whether you will look up to see it. Have you been living as if your wounds are the whole of who you are, or are you ready to see that beyond every wound, there is a light that never goes out? Think of your soul as a mirror. Every experience leaves a mark on it. Some marks reflect beauty, others reflect pain. Over time, the mirror becomes clouded, and you forget what the true reflection looks like. But the spirit is the light that shines into the mirror. Without that light, the mirror reflects nothing at all. The soul can be cracked, even shattered, but the light remains. Would you define yourself by the cracks, or by the light that never stops shining through them? This is why it is so important to recognize the spirit. Without it, the soul becomes lost, like a traveler without a map. It stumbles in the dark, always searching, never finding. But with the spirit, the soul has direction. It knows where it is going. It knows that every step, even the painful ones, leads to something greater. How different would your life be if you stopped identifying only with the traveler and began to see yourself also as the destination? So let us return to the image of the two flames. One flickers and dances with every wind. The other burns steady, eternal, unchanging. Both live inside you. The question is not whether they exist. The question is, which one are you living from? Which one do you trust? Which one guides your decisions, your actions, your life? The soul will always shout, but the spirit will always shine. Will you continue to listen only to the noise, or will you learn to recognize the silent fire that has been guiding you all along? This is the invitation of this journey. Not to reject the soul, not to worship only the spirit, but to finally see them clearly and allow them to work together. For when the soul remembers its source in the spirit, when the wave remembers it is the ocean, when the mirror remembers the light, everything changes. And the question you must ask yourself now is simple but powerful. Are you ready to see? Life often feels like a dance between two worlds, the restless call of the soul and the quiet rhythm of the spirit. The soul seeks, it longs, it chases, it suffers. It is the part of you that wants recognition, that fears rejection, that burns with passion and trembles with loss. The spirit, in contrast, waits silently. It does not argue, it does not rush, it simply is. Like a drum that never stops beating, its presence holds the rhythm of eternity, even when we cannot hear it. Every day you are caught in this dance. One part of you pushes outward, craving movement and experience. The other calls inward, reminding you of the eternal center. Most people feel this tension but cannot name it, so they think something is wrong with them. But what if nothing is wrong at all? What if this tension is the very design of your existence? Imagine a river flowing toward the sea. The river is restless. It runs through mountains, valleys, and cities. It is sometimes calm, sometimes violent. That river is your soul. The sea is endless, vast, unshakable. No matter how the river moves, the sea waits. The sea is your spirit. When the river reaches the sea, it does not disappear. It becomes something greater. This is the true union of soul and spirit, not destruction of one, but transformation of both. Yet how often do we live as if the river must find its way alone, forgetting that the sea is already waiting? Statistics reveal a painful truth. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental health issue in the world, affecting more than 300 million people. Depression affects nearly 280 million more. These are not just numbers, they are evidence of souls lost in storms, forgetting the calm of the spirit. People believe their emotions are the whole truth. They confuse the flickering flame for the eternal one, and in doing so, they suffer. But here is the surprise. Studies also show that those who practice stillness, meditation, or acts of compassion experience measurable changes in brain activity, reductions in stress, and increases in happiness. Could it be that when the soul begins to align with the spirit, even science can measure the results? Think of a story told often in different ways around the world. A farmer works day and night, worried about his harvest. His soul is restless, filled with fear of failure. One day, he sits by a tree, exhausted, and for a moment, he lets go. In that silence, he feels something he has not felt before: peace. The crops are still uncertain, the problems remain, but inside him a different light appears. He realizes that while the river of his soul runs with fear, there is also an ocean within him, calm and eternal. This realization does not erase his work, but it changes everything about how he lives it. Have you ever had such a moment when nothing outside changed but suddenly everything inside felt different? The truth is that the soul cannot guide itself alone. It becomes lost in desire, in fear, in ambition. The spirit is the compass, the silent guide that gives direction without words. But you must choose to listen. The soul will always be louder, but the spirit will always be truer. Think of how many decisions in history were made from the restlessness of the soul, wars fueled by pride, betrayals driven by fear, injustices born from greed. Now imagine what our world would look like if more people listened to the calm of the spirit instead. Would history itself be different? This is where the great secret begins to unfold. The goal is not to deny the soul or escape it. The soul is your story, your color, your song. But without the spirit, the story has no meaning, the color fades, the song becomes noise. Integration is the key, and integration requires practice, not theory. Helena Blavatsky insisted that the path of truth was not in abstract ideas, but in daily acts of awakening. She said the soul must remember it belongs to the spirit, and the spirit must express itself through the soul. Only then does life find its harmony. So how do you begin to build this bridge? Imagine a musician with an instrument. The spirit is the eternal melody, but the soul is the instrument through which it must be played. If the instrument is broken, the melody cannot be heard clearly. That is why practices like silence, gratitude, compassion, and intention are not optional. They are essential. They tune the instrument of the soul so it can resonate with the eternal spirit. Have you noticed how a simple act of gratitude can change the entire feeling of a day? Or how a moment of compassion towards someone else can bring unexpected peace to your own heart? These are not coincidences. They are glimpses of the spirit shining through. Consider silence. In a world where noise dominates, silence is almost feared, yet silence is the language of the spirit. It is in silence that the restless waves of the soul calm down long enough for the deeper voice to be heard. Modern psychology confirms this. Moments of mindfulness reduce stress and open clarity of thought. But more than that, silence is sacred. It is the doorway through which the spirit steps into your awareness. Why then do we run from it? Why do we fill our days with noise if silence is where we find our truth? Now think about gratitude. The soul vibrates at different frequencies depending on what it holds. Fear lowers it, envy distorts it, but gratitude lifts it. When you practice gratitude, even for small things, the warmth of the sun, the breath in your lungs, you tune the soul to the same vibration as the spirit. Science shows that gratitude rewires the brain toward positivity. But more than that, it is an alignment, a synchronization between the changing soul and the eternal spirit. Could something so simple really open such a great door? And if it could, why do we not practice it more often? The body too plays its role. It may seem strange to speak of the body when discussing soul and spirit, but the body is the temple where their union occurs. To care for the body is not vanity, it is reverence. Each breath, each movement, each heartbeat is an altar where the soul and spirit meet. Neglecting the body clouds this connection, while honoring it makes the channel clear. Indigenous traditions across the world understood this deeply. They danced, fasted, prayed, and honored the body, not as flesh alone, but as the bridge between earth and heaven. Have we forgotten this wisdom in our modern lives? And then there is compassion. The soul often believes it is alone, trapped in its own story. But compassion breaks that illusion. When you feel the pain of another and choose to act with kindness, your soul expands beyond itself, and in that expansion, it touches the spirit. Neuroscience shows that compassion activates areas of the brain linked to reward and connection. But beyond science, compassion transforms the heart. It turns isolation into unity, and in that unity, the spirit shines. Why then do we resist compassion, choosing judgment instead? Could it be that we fear the vulnerability it demands? Finally, there is intention. Every act begins with intention. Every thought, every word, every choice carries a seed of energy. When intention is selfish, the seed grows into fragile weeds. But when intention is pure, aligned with truth, it becomes a tree that shelters many. This is why Blavatsky spoke of intention as the luminous compass. It is not enough to act. You must know why you act, and align that why with the eternal. Have you ever asked yourself, What is the true intention behind my actions? If not, how do you know whether your soul is aligned with your spirit? When you weave silence, gratitude, care for the body, compassion, and pure intention into your daily life, the soul begins to align with the spirit. This alignment does not mean you will never feel fear or sadness again. It means that fear will not control you, sadness will not define you, and even in darkness you will feel the light within. Life becomes not a random series of events, but a conscious path. Every breath, every step, every choice becomes a ritual of awakening. And once you taste this way of living, you cannot go back. So the dance continues. The river flows to the sea. The wave remembers it is the ocean. The flame of the soul burns in harmony with the eternal fire of the spirit. This is the great secret hidden in plain sight. Not to deny one, not to glorify the other, but to unite them into one living truth. And as you listen now, the question rises within you. Will you continue to live only as the restless soul, or will you begin to live as the union of both, the traveler and the destination at once? The choice is always before you, waiting for your answer. You have now walked with me through the mystery of the soul and the spirit, and perhaps you already feel the weight of this truth settling in your heart. It is not a story to entertain you, it is a call to awaken. You are more than the restless voice of emotions, more than the wounds of the past, more than the fears that haunt your nights. You are also the silent, eternal presence that has never been touched by pain. The soul is the traveler, but the spirit is the destination that has always been with you. To recognize this is to begin a new life, not tomorrow, not one day far away, but now. It is not enough to hear these words and nod in agreement. Knowledge without practice is like a seed never planted. It holds potential but never bears fruit. The difference between staying the same and transforming your life is the decision to apply what you have learned. And so I want to give you a plan, a living strategy, so that you can begin to unite your soul and spirit in daily life. This is not a theory, it is a practice. It is not complicated, but it requires sincerity. If you are willing, even small actions will open great doors. The first step is silence. Every day, create a moment when you do nothing but sit quietly and listen. Even if it is just 2 minutes, close your eyes, breathe slowly, and allow the noise of the soul to settle. At first, it will feel uncomfortable because the soul resists silence. But stay. In that silence, the spirit begins to reveal itself. With time, you will notice that clarity comes not in the rush, but in the pause. This is the space where you remember who you are. The second step is gratitude. Every morning when you wake up, choose 3 things you are grateful for, even if they are small. Speak them out loud or write them down. Gratitude lifts the vibration of the soul and aligns it with the spirit. It changes the lens through which you see your life. Problems do not disappear, but they no longer control you. Gratitude transforms pain into wisdom and loss into opportunity. When practiced daily, it becomes a shield against despair. The third step is caring for your body. Remember that the body is the temple where soul and spirit meet. Walk with awareness, breathe deeply, eat consciously, rest with respect. Every act of care for your body is also an act of reverence for the spirit. Do not treat your body as a machine to be used until it breaks. Treat it as a sacred space where the eternal fire burns. When the body is honored, the soul finds balance, and the spirit shines without obstruction. The fourth step is compassion. Each day, choose at least one act of kindness toward another person. It does not need to be large: a smile, a listening ear, a word of encouragement. Compassion stretches the soul beyond itself and reminds it that it belongs to something greater. It awakens the spirit within you and within others. The world may tell you that kindness is weakness, but in truth, compassion is one of the highest strengths. It heals both the one who receives and the one who gives. The fifth step is intention. Before you act, ask yourself, why am I doing this? What energy is behind this choice? If the answer is fear, envy, or pride, pause. If the answer is clarity, love, or growth, proceed. Intention is the compass that guides the soul toward the spirit. Without it, the soul wanders. With it, every step becomes aligned with eternity. This simple habit will slowly but surely reshape your entire life. These 5 steps, silence, gratitude, care for the body, compassion, and intention, form a path. It is not about perfection, but about persistence. Even if you fail, return again. Each day is a chance to begin anew. Remember, the river does not reach the sea in one leap. It flows step by step, bend by bend, until finally it becomes one with the ocean. Your life is the same. Every choice, every effort, every return to this practice brings you closer to the union of soul and spirit. And now comes the most important reflection. Will you take these steps, or will you let this knowledge fade away as just another idea? The choice is yours. No one can walk this path for you. You are free to stay as you are, or you are free to awaken. But understand this, awakening is not reserved for saints or sages. It is available to you right now if you dare to act. Will you act? Helena Blavatsky reminded us that the true journey is not external, but internal. The real temple is not built of stone, but of consciousness. When you live from the Spirit, you turn your life into that temple. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every gesture becomes sacred. Every moment becomes eternity touching time. This is not a dream, it is your possibility. So here is my call to you. Do not wait for a perfect day. Do not wait until you feel ready. Begin now. Take one step today, even if small. Tomorrow, take another. Let your soul remember its source in the Spirit, and let your spirit express itself through your soul. This is how transformation happens. This is how confusion turns into clarity, fear turns into courage, and despair turns into hope. And now I want you to reflect. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you feel shy, write anonymously, but write. Share your questions, your experiences, your struggles. Your words may help someone else who is also searching. Together we form a community of seekers, each one carrying a light, and together our lights shine brighter. Finally, if these words touched you, if they awakened something within, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Press the button, not as a mechanical act, but as a conscious choice to continue this journey. Give this video a like if it resonated with you. It tells me and others that these truths matter. And comment with your heart, because every story adds to the light we are creating here. This is your moment. This is your choice. Take it and let the flame of your spirit guide you forward.